So when looking to insure an engineer or an architect, these are some of the coverages that you should try as much as possible to get secured. Blanket Additional Insured Coverage has become a much more commonly requested item in all of our insurance policies. They decide to contract with client A, and client A will say to the architect, the only way that I'll award you this contract is if you can guarantee me that you'll be able to name me as an additional insured for vicarious liability. So if the client A gets named in a lawsuit for the acts of the architect, that they'll be covered on that vicarious basis. That's very, very common. So most A&E policies, I'm actually not sure how much in the marketplace has this language already included on the form, but you should be looking for blanket additional insured language whenever possible. Blanket waiver of subrogation to clients is also a second commonly made request. This is where the client is requesting that our insurer waive their rights to subrogate. So if there's a claim, one of their clients makes a claim against the insured, we end up paying X amount, let's just pretend $1 million, then us, the carrier, have the ability to subrogate against that client who made the lawsuit to begin with to try to recover some of our losses. A lot of clients are uncomfortable with that, so they're requesting that right be waived. So many markets, including Hiscox, does have a blanket waiver of subrogation language built into their forms. Consider coverage for IP infringement claims. This is also far less common today, but some forms will have coverage for intellectual property in the event that they are, coming up with a new design, a new footprint, even coming up with their company design logo, et cetera, et cetera. It's also a nice perk to carry. I think this is far less common in the marketplace, but something to look out for and have included whenever possible. 70-30 hammer clause. I think the standard is 50-50 in the marketplace. So 70-30 is always advantageous. Many of you know probably what a hammer clause is, but in the event that an insured maybe refuses to go with the suggested actions that the carrier is suggesting. So they're facing a lawsuit and the carrier says, I think we should try to settle this claim rather quickly for X amount rather than try to fight it in court. Sometimes insureds and carriers may disagree as to how they want to go about pursuing a claim. So if for some reason the insured decides to take a different path, and there is a different amount to be awarded, the hammer clause provides the insured with the assertion that we'll cover 70% of the outcome of your claim depending on the path that you took. So if you decided not to go with our advice, that's fine. We'll only cover up to 70% of that, and you'll be responsible for the remaining 30. However, 70-30 is a generous amount. 50-50 is the standard, but a 70-30 is much more advantageous to an insured. Media and advertising coverage. That's something that many markets also have included on their form automatically. Hiscox has it on their form too. It's just providing coverage, in the rendering of their advertising and publicity exposures as they're advertising for their business and soliciting more business. They don't have necessarily a huge exposure with media, but again, it's a nice perk to carry should they ever be involved or face a media sort of claim. Crisis management coverage, that's a nice perk to have. A lot of insureds sometimes, as a result of a design error or a mistake that they made, some kind of professional negligence, can suffer from reputational harm. So crisis management will provide them the ability to, will provide supplemental expenses to try to mitigate that negative reputational impact. Some markets will include a small sublimit of that coverage, but in the event that your insured is going through that, having a crisis management sublimit will definitely come in handy to kind of help mitigate the impact of any adverse claims history or scenario. Pre-claims assistance and additional payments. These are also sublimits that are typically rendered within an A&E policy. They're definitely great coverage enhancements to have, especially the supplemental additional payments. Oftentimes insureds have to miss work to attend, either a deposition, or they'll have to attend an arbitration or mediation proceeding, and they can suffer loss of wages And they also can suffer some expenses while trying to get to those depositions or trying to, meet their arbitration meetings. So there is a sublimit render and provided for those kind of expenses. It typically has a per diem limit. It'll probably be $250, and there'll be a total aggregate. Sometimes it's $10,000, where we'll cover up to that amount. But again, it's also something nice for the insured to have in their back pocket should they be facing a claim. And lastly, defensive licensing, FHA, OSHA, ADA regulations. These are also other enhancement sublimits that are important to carry. If they're ever facing some kind of regulatory of licensing proceeding involving these regulations, they'll have some coverage within the form to provide coverage for those either, fines or penalties or just investigations.